win a game ever?
So it's one of those decks that's very consistent at executing its game plan. It can very consistently get scabs by turn 6 or 7. It's just sometimes you're playing against a matchup or a deck that can do like less consistent things, but when they do hit, they hit really hard and becomes unbeatable for Quest Rogue, right? But McBanterFace tweeted, well, it was like a week ago. I believe he hit like rank 1 legend or very high legend with Quest Rogue, saying that it's like a very versatile deck, that it's quite strong, that it doesn't have terrible matchups, and I think that's where it's at. It doesn't have many terrible matchups, but it doesn't have these matchups where it's so over the top in its favor. So it's kind of that initial Q conquest deck, right? Which we oftentimes see is just bring the good stuff. But going up against Bloomcoin Caverns.
Turn 1 Cavern, yeah.
Yeah.
So while we watch this game unfold and Dimitri hits McBanterFace in the head 6 times, then burns him out, we've got to do what we always have to do when DimitriKazov plays, and that is work out what he's got in the background.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh. Was he not cleaned his room? Jeez. Just left everything there.
An elephant, a figurine.
5 months.
Thing, a temple, a Charlie Chaplin. That's what I've got this week.
All right, write it down.
I have done already. Actually did.
Yeah.
No show production now. See, it's there. Yeah, there you go.
I can't see you, so I'll just have to take your word for it. But this is kind of what I was talking about, right? Like, this is not a terrible hand for McBanterFace at all. He has some SI cards. He has things to do each turn. It's just the top-end power level of some of these other decks in the metagame. Notably the ones that have the card Lightning Bloom, Shaman and Druid, is just a little higher than what Rogue's maximum potential is. That's sometimes where it falls short. So, though DimitriKazov has kind of hit a little bit of a bump in the road here. He's still pushing a lot of damage. It's just doesn't have a target for the windshield from the Sleep Breaker.
So I think you target the Sleep Breaker here, because next turn you might want to double Landslide and then multicast the turn after that. He's just going to keep the damage on the board, though, and just go for lethal.
Yep. Go for lethal.
I mean, it's burn Shaman. It doesn't take much from hand, usually. I know he hasn't gotten the burn at the moment, but you just go pew-pew and another 6 to the face or another 8 to the face. They force the trades, which means the landslides won't be needed.
Yep. And McBanterFace has to make the decision here. It really only seems like there's one choice, which is Skulker plus Swindle. I guess there's an argument for Secret Passage, but with only 3 mana available, not enough SI cards have been played for the SI7 Assassin to be able to come down for cheap enough to play it with Secret Passage. So maybe if you hit like Step for the Foxy Fraud, but then he wouldn't be able to trade it into one of the 3/4s. So overall, rough situation for McBanterFace, though. Maybe the Wicked Stabs upgrading at 5 mana next turn could turn it around slightly.
Maybe. So the problem here for Dimitri is what he wants to do with his multicaster. This is where I was going to end up. The base level was sort of, well, if you want to get the spells into it, you've got to sort of wind chill your own stuff, and that just looks stupid. So he's so close to getting the lethal, he doesn't need many more cards. So just play out there, use the body as a 3/4 minion, and get 1 more card is absolutely fine here, I think. He's just so close to just closing this out with Lightning Bolt, plus one of the majority of burn spells that are still in his deck. And all the time at McBanterFace is not really getting anywhere. This deck does well by having a decent number of cards in hand and gaining tempo, and it's not doing any of those things.
Well, I mean, it is doing some things. He can clear the board here, take full control. It does get the mole. He was just seeing what the option was. I don't think, maybe he would have used the Zapmaster 3600 or whatever the card is called.
I mean, whatever you want to call it.
Put the card back in hand.
Looks like an easy wind chill multicaster. Get some more stuff and have a handful of lethal. Looking to close it out on turn 8 with Bukan.
Yep. Lightning Bloom being
on
the
turn
neutral spell.
6 with this hand. Yes.
Well,
What's the rub?
Target eliminated.
these are big. Does it set up? Wind Chill's going to stop it. I was going to say, does it set up for a potential Battle Mastered lethal next turn with Secret Passage? It'd be 22, 25. It wouldn't even. But it's really all McBanterFace can do at this point. So yeah, he that was a decent start, right? Has board, completed quest on turn 6. It's just too far behind on the health total, most likely.
Most likely.
To actually win the game from this point.
So studies lethal next turn. If he studies now and gets anything but Phoenix or Guild Trader, he'd have 2 extra spell damage. He would then have Lightning Bolt, Portal, and Overdraft for 15 next turn. 14. How does he get the extra?
Cool.
We need 1 extra point of Overload for that to be lethal.
Okay, well, this is going to have the Multicaster Battle Cry. It's going to draw 2 more cards.
Oh, now he's got Lightning Bloom. That's lethal next turn if he plays the 2 Primordials and can play the stuff.
Also draws a Zapper, so really only needs 1 Primordial to actually hit.
Yeah. But because he whiffed, he's
There's
got to
another
go
Zapper.
again. There we go. What a deck.
Infinite mana, infinite damage.
+2.
+2.
Infinite damage
infinite-
+2 each time.
Infinite damage +2 is... Yep, still infinite.
Yep, agree. Well, McBanterFace doesn't know for sure, though he's probably got a pretty good idea because he's just seen double Primordial go into this.
Yeah, he's just got to go all in, scab, stealth it, load up the weapon, smack, and yeah, hope that there's literally nothing in Dimitri's hand of 10 cards.
Yeah, that he chose to make sure he burns a card that he ordered in such a way that he played the double Primordial last after seeing his new cards.
He has to hope that he hit like double Steward of Scrolls, and every card in hand is not Snowfall Guardian or Burn.
Which is a shame because every card in the deck is either Snowfall Guardian or Burn.
Essentially, it would have to be like Brucon, double Steward of Scrolls, double Landslide, which is close, but that would only make up 5 cards.
And he would know the double Landslide clears as well because there's double spell damage in hand anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
So the
Well, not
worst
if it was
case
double
was he
Steward of
lost
Scrolls.
it. Okay. He could still play 1 Steward. Yeah, it wouldn't be a clear. You're right.
So
But it was.
still
It's one
there was still hope. Yeah. 1-0 DimitriKazov. McBanterFace is going to have to try again with the Quest Rogue. Hard to overcome the Lightning Bloom plus Wildpaw Caverns start from the Shaman if you're not a class that can heal. And
I even left it on the screen for you, TJ. Really know it was a Shaman.
all right, we get it. Dimitri won with Shaman. Hey, we're back.
Yay. Hey. So, yep, Dimitri won with Shaman, as you may have noticed. We're nearly the same size now. We're getting there. And the rest of his lineup is even more aggressive, although everyone has, like, by sort of definition, because you bring 4 decks. Yep, never miss a match. Hit that subscribe button right now. Everyone has like a 4th deck, a worst deck, and he has got that Shadow Priest, which I know you've been doing well with because I watched you testing against Sottle with it, but that deck seems to be a bit hit or miss sometimes.
Yeah. It's very dependent on like the opening hand, essentially, because many of the draws like after that don't even matter unless you've gotten like a certain lead, like a health lead or a board lead, one of the two, dependent on the matchup. And just because we didn't talk about it, the bans do make a lot of sense, with Demon Hunter being banned away from McBanterFace, which is the most anti-aggro of the lists from McBanterFace, and then the Druid being banned away, which is you know, this more board-based aggro deck that has a ton of longevity to like its game plan, which is also pretty detrimental to what McBanterFace is trying to do. So, and probably in a nutshell, the strongest out of the four. Maybe Shaman can contend for that, but can have the most dead draws. But Dimitri, you're going to go to Face Hunter next. And this one, I think, doesn't have as many I win openings as Burn Shaman does, I would say. I guess
No,
the I win
the openings
opening
can
is
be
like
quick.
being on the play, right?
Sure,
and like
yeah.
having like Intrepid Initiate or Trog into buff. That would probably be the closest thing to Lightning Bloom Caverns that we can get.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, you can go for days without getting Lightning Bloom Cavern. I've tried it. It happens unless you're Fury Hunter, in which case you just go Lightning Bloom Cavern every single game because that's what good players do. But we're going to get to see McBanterFace on this Burn Shaman. This personally is my favourite deck in the format, which will probably make me even more unpopular now because everyone doesn't seem to like it. But I just think it's a really nice constructed deck. When you first pick this deck up without any help or anything, you start playing it, you don't know what to do with it until you really think about it. Because it's like goes half one way and half another way. It tries to get the board, but that's not really enough, so you have to finish it with Burn. And it takes a little while, if you've never played it, to actually just get the right balance of what you're doing. But like a pro, McBanterFace has a Cavern, which is what you're supposed to do. And he'll probably keep the studies as well, because that powers up his card draw. Oh, he's got the do I triple mulligan and try and hit the Bloom face on. I can
Don't
tell
be fooled. It's very similar to all of his other faces.
Yeah.
But trust us.
We know what his faces mean now.
Yeah.
And this is his do I throw away all three good cards just to hit a Bloom face.
Don't you even dare say that you know McBanterFace's faces more than me and Neil.
Oh, he's kept the landslide? Of course, because it's against the Hunter. Fair enough. All right.
All right.
Forgot to draw a minion as Hunter. Always tricky.
Yeah, this hand is pretty poor. Those options from Primordial Stud are, also very poor. Well, not too poor, but expensive stuff. Wants to be able to try and get ahead at some point in the start of the game, considering a lot of room to capitalize on this slow start from DimitriKazov.
Yeah, McBanterFace is... I don't think he'll do it, but he's seriously considering playing the Thalnos, because he kind of knows the opposing hand, right? So... maybe, I think he just... Oh, what do? You really want to coin Portal, but you're so close to coining Wild Paw that maybe you just do freeze your own Thalnos here. This is hard. This is actually really tough.
Well, Dimitri, hero powered past.
Yeah, this is the problem with Modern Hunter, right? It expects to stay on the board with its one drops because they're so resilient. But when it doesn't, it just ends up with a handful of doggy biscuits and things.
Both players are kind of like, what is happening? Cold Neophyte actually a fantastic draw. Because McBanterFace really was trying to set up for the coin Wild Paw Caverns, it seems, with that Totem Pass play. Now I'll have to go back to the drawing board. Next turn's probably just going to be a Wind Chill and a Blood Mage Thalnos, which doesn't seem particularly strong.
No. And Dimitri has got some sort of curve going on now.
Yeah. Just Frostbite, I guess. Not really many targets for Frostbite to get the honorable kill. Anyway.
I think I prefer the Wind Chill.
Okay.
Because he's got Coin and the Guardian, he should be able to start freezing boards later, so the Wind Chill's probably not that relevant. He needs to start casting some of these so he can get going, but no.
Ha! We went with my play. Ha!
Well, I'm off. I'm not casting anymore. TJ got it right, and I got it wrong.
Yep. Yeah, I just think that Frostbite has very limited use outside of killing your opponent in this matchup, right? Whereas Wind Chill can freeze something real big and buy you more time before you have to play the Snowfall Guardian.
Okay.
If he just freezes it and he wants to play like Wild Paw Cavern this turn, then
yeah, he gets the tempo.
it's going to attack him. Yeah.
But it can still attack. That's the problem here. Because of the weapon.
True. But he's not going to. Because then he wouldn't get Rhino damage.
Uh-huh.
And he'd also freeze his face.
I didn't say he was going to attack. I just said he could. That one I would have done. Even I get that play.
Ah, yes. Options.
Options. The caster's curse. Like, imagine if they didn't give the players options, how much easier this job would be. Decision time. How do you want to use your burn for the whole of this game? Because he can just clear the board and, you know, overload his burn and have the board for a turn and portal something again next turn.
Yeah.
And he has to win on board.
Yeah, it would take away the option for the Snowfall Guardian next turn. But maybe that's okay.
He probably wouldn't need it next turn, would be my argument. If he does go that way, he probably need it the turn after, which is when he could get un-overloaded. He wouldn't take much damage. He'd probably get to Brukan okay to heal up as well that way.
Yeah. He has no read. Well, he could have a read that the second Trampling Rhino is in hand because of the slow start from Dimitri, which would mean that he wouldn't want to play like Blood Mage Thalnos. But in order to go for the clear, he would have to. And that opens up a big potential damage opportunity here for DimitriKazov. Can play Rhino and then attack into the Blood Mage Thalnos. And then get the Kobold Taskmaster as well.
Yep.
To push 5 more. That'd be 11 damage. Push this turn. Actually can make that 2 more damage with the Adorable Infestation. Could push 13 points of damage this turn.
Yeah, that's a lot given. My argument was that he gets to turn 8 and heals with Brukan. Because in that line, he might not get to turn 8.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, this play just seems way too good. I mean, McBanterFace nods as if he expected that this was going to happen, or at least understood that it was a possibility. Now the big question, I guess, though, is do you clear off the Wild Paw Caverns instead? But I don't think so. I think you force McBanterFace to make the decision on like what to freeze. So 12 health left for McBanterFace. Already kind of running out of time a little bit.
Yeah, and if he's going to overload, he's got to do it this turn because he definitely, in the worlds where he wins, he Brukans on 8, I think. For that extra 6 health plus the extra 5 armor. That's how he stabilizes. So with that in mind, this turn could be Lightning Bolt Landslide?
Yuck.
Uh-huh. I agree. What have you got that's better? Trade Landslide? Totem? Freeze the thing, don't landslide, play multitasker? Like...
What about Serpentine Portal plus Lightning Bolt?
He's only got 4 mana. That is only 4 mana. Yeah.
Good point, Neil. He just happens to have exactly enough mana for the play I suggested. Well spotted.
I thought I'd, like, boost your confidence in your ability to add 3+1. Which is how many
Needed
points
that.
you get when you advance from the semi-finals to the final.
Yep, because you've already earned 3, and because you're winning a single match, you earn 1 more.
Yep. And
That's
that
equaling
is
4.
4.
I think
Oh, interesting.
everybody that watches America's Grandmasters should know that I'm an expert at adding in increments of both 1 and 500.
What do you think of the option there? Dimitri didn't use the doggy biscuit to give anything rush. Because that seemed like an option.
I think he's just worried about one thing and one thing only.
It's
Damage.
disgusting.
I think
Oh,
he
damn.
wanted the information before he spent any mana, right? Because that could determine whether or not he would be able to set up for a 2-turn lethal. I think he's also worried that he doesn't want to play too many minions because of Snowfall Guardian. He doesn't want to accelerate McBanterFace's clock by putting more minions and making that a little bit beefier. But this seems like a reasonable opportunity for McBanterFace. The problem is you only have 5 health. So I think it kind of has to be Snowfall Guardian and then just hope that Dimitri doesn't have
Cards.
that 3 extra damage in hand. Yeah.
Can't portal, right? You've got to brew Khan next turn. In the worlds where he hasn't got you now, you've got to brew Khan next turn. Or you're actually
Unless
dead.
he thinks he can set up a 2-turn lethal, which just really doesn't seem possible. Multicaster would have to pick up like the perfect cards next turn, and everything on board would have to survive.
But he'll be all right. He's gone.
I was going to say maybe thinking about like if he should attack with both of these minions, I guess. So in case he needs to attack into something next. Whoa. Oh no, this is fine. As long as he clears the board and freezes his face, right? I think he's good. He just needs to not overload, which multicaster does not overload.
Yeah. He needs
full
to
damage
make
to face
sure.
there.
He needs to make sure that he does win after he plays the Brukan like 1 turn later. It's like saying, well, he'll stabilize there, but you know, that health will get chipped away pretty quickly. And Dimitri doesn't have it. I was just going to say, McBanterFace has been here before against Muzzy. Just if they've got the card, you're not going to the World Championships.
Yep.
Haven't got the card, you are.
And I really like this play from McBanterFace. I think this is actually better than Snowfall Guardian because it keeps more damage loaded onto the board, actually. Because the Snowfall Guardian would have only been, what, a 6/6 at that point?
Yes.
And he would have either not pushed damage that turn or frozen his minions for the next turn, so he wouldn't be able to attack with it. So this is nets more damage, and he has the options. So this is 9.
And then 9. I mean, there's more, but 9 then 9.
Well, plus I was thinking, is it actually just lethal this turn? He was very close, assuming Primordial Studies hit.
It is.
I was 9 + 8. It was 17. It was 1 damage off lethal. If he got something for Primordial Studies that was playable with...
No, it's Lightning Bolt, Frostbolt.
Infinite.
It's just lethal. Lightning Bloom, Frostbolt.
Oh, yeah, it is. Wait. Oh, yeah, 12. Okay.
9,
put in my
6,
8.
3.
Yep, so it is lethal. So that's what he was counting. He was just double checking. But it ended up involving Brukan instead of Primordial Studies plus Burn. So well spotted by McBanterFace. I think he wins from that point anyway, because even if he didn't have lethal, he could have just chosen the heal option. And, you know, gaining 11 health that turn would have been enough to allow him to survive to pick up the additional burn. So well done. McBanterFace ties up the series.
Yep, 1 apiece seems fair to me. The Shaman's getting out of there. Love that deck. It's a good deck.
Yep.
But nicely played from McBanterFace, even though, you know, it was really close to the end. But that's kind of how Hunter goes sometimes. You have to decide how much of your burn you want to actually put into the face and how much for the board. And you do win the board with a lot of 3/4s. So a lot of 3/4s is a good plan. And he recognized that, worked out that his overload would work for him. That was the important thing, so that he could get to this turn 8. And, yep, had to rely on Dimitri not drawing much card burn. Not card burn? Much of his own
card burn. Yep.
You still with me with the card burn thing? Yeah.
I understand
And-
perfectly. Yeah.
Over to you, TJ.
Well said.
If I speak anymore,
Well
I'm
said.
going to ruin everything. It's just, if it's
Fair
not
enough.
already ruined, I will ruin it.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that kind of showcased from Dimitri what we're talking about some of these aggro decks kind of needing those strong openings. And Dimitri not hitting it, but did have some really good turns in the mid game, being able to double attack with a buffed Rhino. Kept it close, but McBanterFace able to mat that one out. Make sure you got Brukan right on time, and the multicast the previous turn actually just unlocked lethal. So DimitriKazov going to go with the Hunter again, is on the play, and it's got a couple of ones. So we're already looking better than we were in the previous game. Having the ones in this matchup, being on the play and having ones in this matchup specifically is even better, because a lot of times the Quest Rogue will forego a turn one play in favor of just playing the quest. So
Has no buffs for these ones though, so that's going to be slightly irritating if he doesn't improve his hand next turn. There's worlds where he might have to float some mana or just hero power.
he could just play the Cutlass first to start chipping away at these things.
That feels... it's against Hearthstone instincts, but it feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah. He could also take the gamble and trade the Cutlass, hope that he doesn't draw a spell, and just play the quest at the same turn. But I think playing the Cutlass is pretty smart here. Doesn't even have any SI cards in hand to go along with the quest.
Needs a 2 health minion and misses. 2 health minion there was kind of close to getting the game wrapped up. Not quite, but, you know, really good spot. And now he's got to waste mana and everything.
Fortunate.
There's no point upgrading by 1 point, right? Shoot your Wolpertinger. Doesn't seem good. Quest, TJ?
Nope. Foxy Swindle. However,
Okay. However.
yeah, I think still Foxy Swindle. However, next turn could be like a coin Foxy Scabs Swindle SI card, right?
Got you. Yeah.
In which case you'd want the quest out of the way so you wouldn't eat up a Scabs discount.
He's got the Foxy back.
Yeah, still no SI cards whatsoever picked up.
Oh, no.
Weird, because the deck plays so many of them.
Yeah. It does it consistently every game, I was told by somebody earlier. Which it does. Like, this is actually really strange.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 2, 12. Nice.
There's one. Gets one.
And go Foxy, Scabs, Quest, Operative. Bada bing, bada boom. You got yourself a board.
Yep. That massive tempo swing turn that this deck does sort of rely on and gets pretty often. What are words today even doing? And just like that, it's got the board, and it's all about Dimitri. Well, where do you even point your removal here? You can't win the race pointing face, so you've got to kill things.
What even is a word? You know?
What even is a word? Who thought of the word word?
Yeah, was the word created before words were created?
Like, how do you ask the question? Like, well, we need a word for word. How do you ask that question? Like, we need a way of saying this thing of the things we're using.
Oh, this is good. This is good. Can Tenwu the Scabs, play the SI, and then assuming it's a treasure. Assuming it's a gizmo that can be played, you can play that as well.
It's all about the Kazakhstan treasures you've met along the way. That's a lot of damage.
McBanterFace is just jamming. Look at him. Just so happy to be playing cards right now.
It's the same face, isn't it? It's just a different posture. That's how he transmits emotion.
Yep, different movements as well.
Yeah.
This is just going downhill for Dimitri. So far behind is that the health race is going in McBanterFace's favor for the moment. Probably has to take Volpertinger here. Nope.
Nah, I think this makes sense because he's never going to get the board unless he... So he's got to do damage and trade just to try and swing things, I think.
Yeah.
It's horrible looking, though.
Yeah.
And he knows. I mean, it all goes back to that roll. Well, there's two things that happened. The roll he had on turn 2 where he needed a 2 health minion, the 2 in 3 shots, so he could get a good board. And then McBanterFace's Foxy into Foxy.
McBanterFace actually had some outs for lethal there with both Shadow Step and SI7 Agent.
Wow.
Being lethal, or Wicked Stab, second Wicked Stab. Very close. Can just clean up the board here and push a ton of damage.
Seems good. If there's no world where he ever loses minions, there, all of his minions, then he's got the Battle Master next turn for lethal in so many different worlds.
Yeah. He can... He could use the Wicked Stab for removal if he wants to keep the minions healthy. But he also has the Death Rattle of the weapon, the Euro Blade.
Uh-huh. Euro.
He's actually just going to load it up. Yeah, smart. Sets up for the Stealth Minion, which Dimitri has no way of interacting with outside of Ridling's Rifle.
Oh, he's got the rifle for the trap!
But if he attacks into something, he dies. He can quick shot and trade.
Yeah, if he gets the explosive trap, which he doesn't, but he takes it instantly to pretend he does.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to change McBanterFace's play, right? He's just going to say, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Dimitri's just laughing. He's like, how does this bluff ever work?
McBanterFace is like, what's stopping me from attacking?
So the only question McBanterFace has to answer is, if I attack and it's explosive trap, can I ever die next turn?
No. Because then if it's explosive trap, he has no minions on the board for the Rhino he knows is in hand. He'd be at 14. There's no way with 7 mana you can deal 14 damage without like Rhino and True Aim Crescent. So nice try from Dimitri, but McBanterFace too clever for that one.
Nice moment there. Both players just having a laugh about that. They both know what the situation was. Just a smile on both players' faces. Love to see it. And it's down to the Druid, TJ.
Down to the Druid. Yep. It's always funny watching those situations, right? Because we know nothing's ever going to come from me. Is that 2 health? There's no downside for McBanterFace to attack. But in a lot of situations, it's like that that bell curve, right? Of if you look at it, the players that are most likely to just attack into explosive trap to clear their board is new players, and then as you start to get better, you start to attack into it less because you think you're so cool because I can read this, it's explosive trap. But on the other end, as you start to get even better, you start attacking into it more just to check, and that's when the bell curve starts to come back down. Same with like just attacking face in general, right? All new players, that's all they do is just attack face. But then you start to trade more and more as you get better, realizing that board actually matters. And then as you get to like the top level player, never trade.
Yeah, they just always go face.
Yeah, so pretty funny. But there it is. We're calling it Kazakhstan, the armor variation of the Druid. Kind of halfway between the traditional Kazakhstan Druids and a Ramp Druid. Missing a couple things that we see from standard Ramp Druid. It still runs Kazakhstan. So I don't think it runs the Cold Tooth Mine, though. Which
it doesn't, no.
Which maybe it is Ramp Druid. Because if it doesn't run Cold Tooth Mine, are you really a Kazakhstan Druid?
I think that's a fair way of putting it. If you don't run it much armor, are you really an armor druid? And there's still Cenarian, but there's no...
Hey!
Oh, Troggers into doggers. Next move.
Oh. Yeah.
You okay, Teach? You need to take a break?
Oh.
All sorted? Cleared up?
You hate to see it.
I mean, I wanted to see a game 5, and I'm going to.
Yeah, you are. On the play, Trog into Biscuit, which is just the ultimate start against Druid because they literally can't do anything.
You have 7 spells in hand, 1 card on the other side of the board that says if you've got a spell in your hand, unlucky.
Yeah, like the best hope here is like, you hero power for 2 turns, and then you draw Scale of Onyxia, and then you can bloom, coin, innervate, lunar eclipse, scale, and your scales will be able to clear all the trogs that summon. You'd have enough damage.
I like that. I think that's the best play. Yeah.
Like that's the only way to win from this situation, at least in my experience playing the deck. Or if your opponent loads up with a bunch of small minions, like it still works because they fill up the board with trogs, right? You just have to hope they don't take much damage in the interim.
Oh, it's there!
Not hero power for 2 turns. It'd have to be this turn. He has to go for it. It would be... He'd still leave damage on the board, which is a sad thing because this was buffed again. Oh, no, he wouldn't. Oh, no, he would leave 1. Yeah, he would leave 1. One of the 1/1s on board. But I think it's just a necessity. You have to go Bloom, Coin, Innervate, and then Lunar Eclipse, and then Scale of Onyxia.
Sure.
Actually, he could clear if he used Solar Lunar. Scale.
Okay. Okay. Does that clear though? Because doesn't the second Lunar just make a Trog? Oh, of course, you've killed a Trog, so there's a space. So. No, you're right.
Would it?
You're right. It would have worked. You are correct. And Dimitri doesn't.
Is that
actually
worth
have
it for a 1/1? Is the situation, right?
Yeah. Probably not.
Well, I mean, he can piercing shot it, and I honestly think you just do that. I think you just take the 5 damage right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because otherwise, piercing shot's going to be nearly dead. There's just, unless you hope that Cenarian Ward gives something small.
Yeah. Also, you've got a weapon already, because Vinlings is quite nice to get set up early against Druid sometimes, but you don't want to overwrite a weapon you already have for the sake of an extra damage and a secret, I don't think. He's giving it a long, hard thought. I don't blame him. This is kind of awkward.
Yeah, but it just makes sense, you know?
It does.
All right. Fine. Who am I, right? You know?
Who are you, TJ Sanders?
Moonlit Guidance. I can bloom. Bloom Overgrowth.
Yeah. That's a tough one as well.
That is really tough. He needs more with this hand. So Guess the Weight has options. Nature Studies can maybe bail him out of a situation. And then Lunar Eclipse can help him survive longer. And fit in an Overgrowth next turn. Very difficult, to be quite honest. He's at 0 mana, so none of them could be played this turn, so like cost is irrelevant in that regard to try and tutor the other one out. But
So, how does the Luna actually do something really good? A lot of the things have 4 or 5 health, and the others have 1 or 1 health.
yeah, he might also have to consider like Ice Trap with the choice. So maybe you pick the cheapest one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
A lot going on. A lot going on. Eesh. Is that pack tactics or open the cages? I can't tell.
I wasn't sure. It could even have been snakes. Yeah, probably cages. Moon touched.
Wait.
Okay, this is better.
Yeah, well, I mean, 8 mana, sure, but we're running out of time to find something good, you know?
I mean, he's got something good in hand.
Still no ice trap. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just play your minions.
Like, McBanterFace is he's got out of half of this. Oh my goodness.
I mean, you have to.
Yeah. Neither of them.
Okay, Misha. All right. And I'm pretty confident that was a clear, right? I think that solar eclipse should have been used because that 1/1 has gotten in. This will be, what, 3-4 damage at this point?
Yeah, good point. And the solar's still in hand, so...
Yeah, and it's... unless the next draw is something super impactful with it, right? Like maybe Nature Studies, potentially Pouch.
Yeah. Yep, it's possible. But like you say, I mean, 3 damage doesn't sound a lot, but it's going to be life or death most likely in this particular game because it's so close.
Yeah, I mean, the next draw from McBanterFace has to be big because the with a secret still up and this much damage being spread out on the board, McBanterFace, this project is almost doing nothing, at least from his perspective.
Oh no!
All right, game 5, here we go. That leaves 6, 7, 8, 13. Yep, dead.
I concede.
And he knows it. So the Druid is going to face off against the Priest, which are, in this matchup, the 2 weak links, I think, in this particular exchange of players.
I would say so as well. I would agree. And I wouldn't call this version of the Druid like anti-aggro, right? We've seen ramp Druids that run the spammy Arcanist, which I think sometimes is necessary if you want to go for that type of approach. But does have some tools at its disposal. Has no armor gain, which is a big one outside of Guff and Snare and Ward. None of the early game, no Amulet or Feral Rage. But it does run like Bog Beam and Iron Bark. So if it does get a minion online, it could block it with the Iron Bark for taunt. Shadow Priest relies on its board for much longer than some of these other like burn decks like Face Hunter. Right, Face Hunter, they're just like, I only need my board for like 6 turns, and then whatever, I'll just hero power and play some spells. Shadow Priest doesn't have as much from hand burn; it's just limited to Void Shards and the hero power. I guess Defy Slepper has made its way through, but
How do you feel about Najak Hexen?
it is either the best draw in your deck or the worst draw in your deck at any given moment.
And how often is it the best one, and how often is it the worst one?
From my experience, roughly 50-50.
All right.
I played a lot of games with that deck. Some of them like on ladder, some of them against like Sottle in practice. And either I drew it and I was like, "Gah!" or I drew it and I was like, "Oh yes!" And there was no in between. There was never a time where I drew it and I was like, "Huh, okay."
So, including this game, how many games in a row have you now seen a Void Touched Attendant in the opening hand?
Well, that streak was broken. So all the is referring to is in practice, I had at least one Void Touch Attendant in my opening hand for 9 games in a row. 9 games in a row.
And it was against Sottle, which is the glorious thing.
Yes. Because Sottle's morale takes 1 extra damage from Void Touch Attendant.
Yeah. Over 9 games, that's 9 morale points plus the natural 9 morale points for having to play you, and that's 18 morale points he's lost.
It's a lot of morale points. A lot.
There's going to be a lot of damage points coming in this game from Dimitri as well. Ray's dead in hand if it goes wrong, and the damage is just going to hurtle towards McBanterFace.
Yeah, this is tough, but I think you just have to, like, you could say, okay, you can hero power at this turn, then Lunar Eclipse it next turn, but I think you just bloom growth here.
Yeah, me too.
And set yourself up for the future while there's a little bit less damage on the board. But right off the bat, it's a difficult situation to be in.
I guess he's got to wonder if he wants to go Bloom Lunar growth, which sounds ridiculous and probably is, but it's taking quite a lot of damage off because it's 3 damage per hit. Oh, he's just going to...
Whoa!
Okay.
Whoa!
Okay.
So now his turn next turn is awkward no matter what. Because he doesn't have enough to hero power plus eclipse the Void Touch Attendant. He'd have to bloom in order to eclipse plus overgrowth.
What is it?
See where it leads him. It's such a weird decision that I'm sure he'll get it right, if that makes sense. You don't accidentally make that play, I don't think. Because Bloom...
Right on the top of his deck.
Yeah.
Okay. Now he can kill the Void Touch Attendant. It's expensive.
There's a peasant that's terrifying as well.
Okay. No. I see what he's doing. He wants to make use out of this Raid Boss Onyxia. If he blooms at any point, he wants to overgrowth and then play Raid Boss Onyxia on 5. That's what he wants to do.
Okay.
Also, by holding on to blooms, he can now like overgrowth and then bog beam to peel some damage off the board.
However,
he's just getting blasted, man. Like, who cares what your plan is? To be quite honest with you,
play overgrowth now and see how it goes. Damn it. But I'm glad you found that, because that made a lot of sense.
Yeah. He's not playing to his deck. He just wants to be able to make use of the Raid Boss Onyxia. He feels like it's... Sure, he can like keep the small board that exists now in check, but you know, then what does he do after that, right? He doesn't have the incremental removal. If he uses all that ramp, Raid Boss Onyxia would never come down. There's not enough tools in his deck to be able to fight it off, so he needs to just make use of the Raid Boss Onyxia with what he's got. But now, let's say he overgrowths and
he's facing 15.
Like, this is the only turn that the Lunar Eclipse could even be relevant. He could take 1 damage off the board by getting in 1 card away by killing off the peasant. It would replace itself with a Trog, but it'd be 1 less card for Dimitri and at least 1 less damage.
I'm wondering if he has to
still
ward
the overgrowth.
He's lost. This is the
no.
Just hope you don't die.
And he needs, what, Solar Eclipse next turn, I think?
Wait, hang on. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13, 16 damage, right?
Not lethal, is it?
I thought it was 1 off, but by the way McBanterFace is acting, maybe I miscounted.
It's lethal. Yeah, it's exactly lethal. He just left himself dead. He needed to Lunar Eclipse to survive, yeah. I don't think he wins that game from that point regardless. Maybe if he picks up Solar Eclipse on the next turn, he could Bloom Solar Cenarian. But even then, like, the board's not being dealt with. The Void Touch Attendant's still there. Like, is that enough? He'd have to get, like, really good minions. So, but at least he would have had a chance right there. I guess he just may have did the math wrong. Oh no, he was dead no matter. No, he didn't do the math wrong. He was dead no matter what. Because he would have fitted an extra spell because he still would have overgrowth, and so it would have summoned 2 Trogs. So it would have left the same amount of power on board. In fact, one more, since it would have been 2 separate sources of damage. So that was the absolute. He was just dead. Like, there's no other way to put it. He was just dead.
It has to bloom. I like the plan, though, because you're unfavored. As we haven't said congratulations to Dimitri, so I'll do that. Congratulations to Dimitri. We'll see him again over the weekend. But the original plan is a good one, I think, because you don't win that matchup particularly often anyway, and there's a clear path to winning it there. And yeah, if your opponent's drawn all their 1-drops, well, good luck to them, which is what happened. Yeah,
and the Trog, which made it especially hard. So, like, in hindsight, which, you know, now we're 20-25 seconds after the turn has ended, right? McBanterFace was trying to come up with a game plan to win.